Thank you, Madam Chairman. The very nature of an election is that somebody wins and somebody loses. Democracy depends on the losing side accepting the legitimacy of the election. That's imperative, not only that an election be free from fraud, but it be free from the appearance of fraud. And we saw in this last election what happens when that appearance is abandoned. And it's been abandoned to a system where it's very difficult to purge voter rolls of people who've died or moved. We then send out ballots to all of those names on the rolls, and then we follow up those ballots with partisan workers to collect them. You know, there was a single woman in my office who received no fewer than 5 ballots at her apartment in Washington, D.C. And I got similar complaints from constituents in my district 3,000 miles away in California. There's a reason why drug tests can't be mailed in. And for that same reason, we had a system that required people to vote in person unless they were physically incapacitated from getting to the polls. And that system worked well. The process began with registration. You appeared before a deputy registrar of voters. You swore to your identity and your eligibility. It wasn't hard to find them. You could find them in every neighborhood fire station or library. Registration closed 30 days before the election, so candidates knew who they were communicating with, and all parties could then canvass the precincts and challenge names that had moved or died. Then, on Election Day, and that's an important term, we called it Election Day because it was the day after the debate was over. We all went to our neighborhood polling place, which was usually at a neighborhood elementary school or a neighbor's garage. We looked our neighbors on the polling board in the eye as they handed us our ballot. We took that ballot into a curtained booth where nobody, not our spouse, not our kids, not our friends, nobody could pressure us, and we cast our votes according to our own consciences. We then handed that ballot back to our neighbor who put it in a locked box. Only those who were physically handicapped and could not get to the polls were afforded an absentee ballot. And at 8 p.m., we knew exactly how many votes had been cast, and usually by 10 p.m., we knew the results. These laws applied to all voters of all races, of all backgrounds, and they assured the integrity of the vote and the public's confidence in that vote. Look at how the left has changed all this. Same day or automatic registration means there's no opportunity to identify fraudulent registrations. Voters can register to vote and then cast votes without ever coming into contact with another human being. Votes are cast long before the debate's concluded. Ballots are mailed to people who've died or moved. Votes are cast under the influence of other family members or friends. Ballot harvesters can collect those ballots, meaning there's no chain of custody from the time that ballot is mailed until the time it is counted. Ballots arrive days after the election. And often we don't know the results of the election until days and sometimes weeks later. Now, Ms. Reardon, we're told that these changes are necessary because some people are incapable of following the simple process that ensured the integrity of the vote. I find that enormously condescending and downright racist. What's your view?
I've always found that the statement that any particular minority group is less likely or unable to follow the statute's provisions in each state to be very racist.
How have these changes, recent changes in our election laws affected public confidence in our elections?
As someone who looked at the 2020 election, I think based upon the number of changes in states that really basically did away with many of the election integrity provisions based upon the allegation that it was necessary for COVID. I think what you saw across the nation, people recognizing that the normal types of statutes that were in place requiring signature matching or identification or having your ballot mailed in by a particular day, I think people looked at that and saw that it was more likely that fraud would occur under those circumstances.
And doesn't every fraudulent vote invalidate a legitimate vote?
Yes, sir.
And isn't that the ultimate voter suppression?
I would agree with that statement.
Thank you. I yield back.